Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we're taking a closer look at Novo Nordisk. The global healthcare company really making its mark with treatments for diabetes, obesity, and also rare diseases. You sent over quite a collection of materials, recent news, a pretty detailed due diligence report, and some stock analysis too. Our goal today is really to unpack all of this, pull out the key insights you need, but, keep it clear and avoid getting bogged down in too much jargon. We've got information covering, let's see, management changes from April 3rd, the successful wrap-up of a clinical trial for subcutaneous amycretin.
So that's an interesting one.
Right, and updates on Ozempic's benefits for type 2 diabetes patients who also have peripheral artery disease, or PAD, that came out of the ACC conference.
Affecting blood flow to the limbs, yeah. Important development.
Definitely. Plus, there's the anticipation around the upcoming earnings report. That's May 7th. And we have the financial deep dives. 2024 sales hit 290.4 billion Danish kroner, which is what, around 41 billion US dollars?
Quite a number.
And the projecting sales growth of 24% for 2025. We'll also look at the full year 2024 results, strong growth in net sales, operating profit, and EPS.
Earnings per share, yeah.
And finally, we'll touch on the competitive landscape, their strengths, and maybe some potential red flags to keep an eye on. Okay, so let's get into it. What jumps out right away is just the sheer scale of Novo Nordisk's growth, especially in those GLP-1 therapies like Ozempic and Wegovy.
Those glucagon-like peptide-1 therapies, they mimic that natural hormone regulating blood sugar and appetite. It's been a game changer.
Totally. So let's start with those recent developments, these leadership changes. Camilla Sylvest departing, new roles for Ludovic Helfgott, Phil Hummel-Bergenjörg, Tanya Sabro. What do you think these shifts might signal about their strategy moving forward? I mean, Helfgott taking over product and portfolio strategy, Sabro getting global communication, that seems significant.
Well, it could suggest they're doubling down, perhaps, sharpening their focus. With competition picking up in obesity and all the attention on GLP-1s, maybe they're really focusing on both the next wave of innovation and how they talk about it, controlling the narrative, managing expectations.
It makes sense. Kind of a two-pronged approach, innovation plus communication.
Could be critical for staying ahead.
Okay, and then the clinical trial success, the positive results from the phase 1b/2a trial with subcutaneous amycretin for overweight or obesity. Remind us, a phase 1b/2a, that's still pretty early stage, right? Testing safety and initial effectiveness.
Exactly. Small group. Bridging that gap between the lab and bigger studies, it's a key step.
So why are these amycretin results significant? How does it potentially stack up against semaglutide, their current big seller?
Well, it's significant because it shows they're not just resting on semaglutide. They're actively looking for what's next, maybe even better options or different approaches. It highlights that ongoing innovation push in a market that's clearly, huge and still growing. Amycretin could be another major player for them down the road.
Right, keeping that pipeline full. And speaking of existing players, let's shift to Ozempic. The data from ACC 2025 suggesting it helps with walking distance and quality of life for people with type 2 diabetes and PAD. That feels like it goes beyond just the blood sugar control aspect.
Sure.
What are the broader implications here for patient care, for market positioning?
It's potentially quite significant if you can show benefits beyond glucose control, like improving PAD outcomes. That really strengthens Ozempic's value proposition. It could influence how doctors prescribe it, maybe leading to wider use in patients with both conditions. It becomes more than just a diabetes drug.
Okay, interesting. Now, how is all this translating to the market? The stock took a bit of a hit recently, down over 10% in the past month, though it ticked up slightly on April 28th. Seems like it mirrors some broader pharma sector challenges, maybe.
Possibly. The whole sector's seen some pressure. But specifically for Novo Nordisk, you also have that upcoming earnings report on May 7th looming. Markets often get a bit jittery ahead of earnings, right? There's anticipation, maybe some profit-taking. Expected EPS is about 91 cents, revenue around $11.33 billion.
So that report could really sway things in the near term, either confirm the strength or
raise questions if they don't meet those high expectations. It's definitely a key event to watch for near-term direction. Strong results could easily turn that recent dip around.
And about those expectations, the year-over-year increase predicted for the upcoming report is pretty substantial. What does that tell us about the underlying business strength right now?
It tells us demand is still incredibly strong, especially for their core diabetes and obesity treatments. It suggests the growth engine is still firing on, pretty much all cylinders.
Let's dig into the financials a bit more then. 2024, those headline numbers. Sales of 290.4 billion Danish kroner, up 26% year over year at constant exchange rates. or CER.
That CER figure is important, takes out the currency noise, shows the real operational growth.
And that Q4 2024 number for obesity drugs doubling year over year to DKK 19.9 billion, that's explosive.
It really is. It just underscores how massive the obesity market opportunity is and how well they've capitalized on it so far. So that segment is just booming.
And looking ahead, the 2025 outlook seems to keep that story going. Sales growth projected at 16.24%, operating profit 19.27%, again at CER.
Right, continued strong guidance. It suggests they feel confident this isn't just a short-term spike. They see sustained momentum.
Which points to, like you said, that strong market need and the power of their current products.
Exactly. It reinforces that this growth seems pretty fundamental right now.
We also saw robust profitability figures for FY 2024. Operating profit hit DKK 128.3 billion, up 25% year over year. EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, grew around 32% to DKK 147.4 billion.
And that strong cash generation is key. It fuels everything else, R&D, acquisitions.
Like that Catalent deal you mentioned, acquiring a major manufacturing partner, strong cash flow makes moves like that possible.
Absolutely. It gives them enormous financial flexibility to make strategic investments, whether it's boosting production capacity or snapping up new technology or pipeline assets.
Now, valuation. The report didn't give a specific PE ratio for Novo Nordisk, but it mentioned Eli Lilly trading around 50 times forward earnings. That implies that Novo Nordisk is probably also trading at a premium, right? Given its dominance in obesity drugs, not exactly a value stock.
Likely, yes.
Right.
You're paying for that growth and market leadership. The market has high expectations baked into the price. So while the valuation might look steep, it reflects confidence in their future prospects, especially in that huge obesity market. Investors expect them to keep delivering.
Okay, let's pivot to the competitive picture, strengths and maybe weaknesses. That 50% global GLP-1 market share is a huge strength.
Dominant position, no question.
And the patent protection on semaglutide running into the early to mid-2030s, how significant is that buffer?
It's very significant. It gives them years of exclusivity to maximize returns before generic competition can really enter the picture for semaglutide specifically. It's a major competitive shield.
Their pipeline also looks strong. Progress in cardiovascular disease, MASH, that's metabolic dysfunction-associated steatohepatitis.
Formerly known as NANASH, yeah.
Liver disease.
Right. And chronic kidney disease, CKD. Plus, cagrisema, the combo drug, and amycretin keep coming up.
Yeah.
Shows they're pushing forward.
That diversification is crucial long-term. You can't rely on just one or two blockbusters forever. Building strength in cardiovascular, MASH, CKD, that positions them well for the future, beyond just diabetes and obesity. So strengths are clear, market dominance, strong pipeline. They even mention sustainability initiatives. But what about potential red flags? The report flagged a 23% year-over-year increase in Scope 1, 2, and 3 CO emissions. And that U.S. regulatory delay for insulin icodec, their long-acting insulin.
Right, those are points to watch. The emissions increase isn't ideal, especially as environmental factors, ESG, become more important for investors. It could attract negative attention. And the insulin icodec delay, well, that could impact their competitiveness in the insulin space specifically. They need to manage these kinds of issues carefully.
How might those impact reputation or growth, do you think, especially the environmental side?
The environmental aspect is increasingly scrutinized. Companies face pressure to show progress on sustainability. A significant rise in emissions could become a reputational risk or attract activist investor attention down the line.
Okay. And comparing them to peers, Eli Lilly, obviously, with Mounjaro and Zepbound having great success, Sanofi focusing elsewhere, like immunology and vaccines. What makes Novo Nordisk stand out?
I think it's their established leadership, particularly in obesity.
Mm-hmm.
They were early and built a very strong presence. While Lilly is a formidable competitor now, Novo Nordisk has that brand recognition, tons of clinical data, and existing infrastructure. That's still a powerful advantage, even as competition intensifies.
Makes sense. So looking ahead, that Q1 2025 earnings release on May 7th feels like the big near-term catalyst, right? To confirm if that growth trajectory is holding up.
Absolutely. It's the next major data point the market is waiting for. It will be a key test of their ongoing momentum.
And potentially FDA decisions on cagrisema down the line, positive news, there would be another boost.
For sure. Regulatory milestones for key pipeline drugs are always significant potential drivers for the stock and future growth.
But we also need to keep risks in mind. You mentioned regulatory scrutiny may be increasing for weight loss drugs in general, and potential bumps integrating that Catalent acquisition, supply chain stuff.
Those are definitely factors. The weight loss drug space is under a microscope. Any unexpected regulatory hurdles could cause issues. And large acquisitions like Catalent always come with integration risks, ensuring smooth operation, avoiding bottlenecks. Investors need to factor those potential headwinds in.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the takeaway for you, the listener? It looks like Novo Nordisk is navigating a really dynamic market, but from a position of strength.
Mm.
Strong underlying fundamentals, especially driven by their diabetes and obesity treatments. That upcoming earnings report is definitely one to watch to see if the momentum holds.
And while there's short-term stock volatility
Hmm.
and those environmental and regulatory points to monitor, their market leadership, that robust pipeline, and the strategic tweaks suggest they're positioned for continued growth.
So maybe the question to leave you with is this. How will Novo Nordisk's continued push into the obesity market reshape the wider healthcare landscape? And what does that mean for investment opportunities across the whole pharma sector?
It's a big question with potentially far-reaching effects.
Definitely something to think about. We encourage you to do your own homework, too. Check out Novo Nordisk's investor relations page. Follow the financial news on outlets like Bloomberg or CNBC to stay updated. And if you found this analysis helpful, please do subscribe, like, and maybe leave us a comment. Let us know if there are other companies or topics you'd like us to explore.